Hello, Professor Toybox here along with Sorcerer's Apprentice Mickey, and we're back in my Fantasia toy box for our next episode of Toybox Tutorials. We've been working on a side quest for Mickey to recover a scroll that the demon Chernabog stole from the magician's castle. Mickey's task is to travel to Bald Mountain, confront Chernabog here, and recover the scroll. Today we're going to finish this side quest and play through it in its entirety to see how it all comes together. I'm really excited, but before we can do that, we have a few more things to do to wrap up this quest. First, since Chernabog is a townsperson and not an actual enemy, there's no way to really battle him like we would other enemies, but we need to do something with him to defeat him and stop the lightning effects so we can safely recover the scroll. And for that, we're going to use a Sidekick door, and that's our topic for today's lesson. You'll find these in the Gameplay Toys drawer, and which ones you find depends on which 2.0 playsets you own. This one is from the Asgard, Assault on Asgard toy box game. This one is from Stitch's Tropical Rescue, and if you scroll over to the left a little further, you find these two from Brave Forest Siege, and this one from Escape the Kiln. And I'm going to use the Brave Sidekick well door, and we're going to place this around the corner over here, like that. And Sidekick doors are toys that can be used to activate other toys when a townsperson or a sidekick is thrown in. And so as we open the logic menu for this, there are logic connections you can establish, some trigger signals that it broadcasts rather, and we'll look at those in more detail in a moment. There are also some properties, and the first property is remove townsperson on entry. So when you throw a sidekick or a townsperson into the well, you can have this automatically remove them and free up their memory, and I'm going to do that for my game here. The next property is to disable the door after use. So if you only want to use this one time and then not have it be used again, you turn this on. If you want to be able to toss in a bunch of sidekicks or townspeople, then you would turn that off. And I'm going to leave this on. Detection level is mainly for sidekicks. So if you have a sidekick traveling with you and you approach a sidekick door like this well, then the higher this is, the further away the sidekick can be when he detects it. And he'll run over and say, "Hey, I found something, look at this." And so if you want this to be highly detectable by him, you would turn this up really high. This doesn't matter for my particular game because I'm not using sidekicks. And then there's these last two properties for a normal response chance and an explosive response chance. And the chance is a 1 out of 10 chance. And so right now there's a 50% chance that this would return a normal response and a 0% chance that it would return an explosive response. And you can have this do two different things depending on what happens. So if we wanted, we could set that to 5 and this one to 5. And you'd have a 50-50 chance that when you throw a townsperson or a sidekick into this well, something good would happen or something bad would happen. And you can change this to a 70-30 kind of a deal. I'm going to set this up to 10 so that there's a 100% chance of that happening and no chance of that happening. And there's two different trigger signals that would be broadcast for each of these possibilities, as we'll see in a moment. So under logic connections, there's 6 trigger signals that this will broadcast. One when the door is reset, when it's activated and deactivated, and all 3 of these come from other toys invoking this toy to do something. So other toys, as we'll see in a moment, can invoke it to reset or activate or deactivate, and when that happens, this toy will broadcast the corresponding trigger signal. And you can have this also do something when a townsperson is thrown in right away. Normally you would throw in a townsperson and they make little weird sounds and things in there while they're tinkering around and doing whatever they're doing in there. And then you get the normal or explosive response. So you can have something happen immediately when they're thrown in, like play a sound effect or have a special effect go off, or maybe a firework. And then a second or two later, either one of these responses will be returned, depending on how you set those percentages in the properties. And so for our situation here, what I want to have happen is the player will pick up Chernabog and bring him down here and toss him in the well. And there's no possibility of this happening because I set that to 0 in the properties. So on a normal response returned, I'm going to have this toy connect over here to the effects generators that are protecting the scroll up there. And we're going to stop looping the effects for the lightning. And new logic connection on normal response returned, which is the only thing that would return. Again, we'll come over to the sparks and also stop looping those. And both of those are visual effects. As you recall, we have a dynamic trigger here that's hooked up to that locator as well. And that's connected to the kill switch over there. And so we want to make sure we turn that off too, so that the player can safely approach that. So a new logic connection on a normal response returned. We'll turn off this dynamic trigger. And now that we're all done hooking this up, I'm actually going to move this locator underneath that scroll. And if we have to test this multiple times, then we're going to want to have our reset button over here connect to that well. So new logic connection when pressed. We're going to come up to the well and reset it. And the other thing we should do is come over to our mission giver and when we accept the mission, so on a new logic connection on the text displayer, when the text proposal is accepted, we'll come over to that well and make sure it's activated. So I just hooked this one up to the button, and I'm now hooking this one up for the mission giver to activate the door. And so when those are activated, that will cause this trigger signal to be broadcast, and when the mission giver is his mission's accepted, that causes this trigger signal to be activated, to be broadcast, because I activated the door. And so that's it for the main quest. And there's a few more finishing touches, though, that I want to put on this. I want to be able to have some other enemies here at the fortress, some of Chernabog's minions. And I also want to be able to put in a few radar markers. So I want a radar marker over this well, and these radar markers will help guide the player through this side quest. And we're going to put one up here on top of, whoa, way off of that. Put one up here on top of this trigger. And we already have one up there for Chernabog. That's connected to the friend generator. So I'm going to put a few out here for the enemies, and that's facing towards me, which is good. I'd like them facing this way because the odds are the player is going to approach from this direction. And we'll put one back over here. Okay, and now that we have those in place, we can add the enemy wave generator and the radar markers. So we're going to need a radar marker for this. And we're going to need a radar marker over here for that one. And we're going to need one for Chernabog. And we're going to need one more locator. Actually, I already have it. So it's right here inside the middle of this fortress. I had put this down earlier and forgot to take that out. But since that's there, we'll just go ahead and use it. So I put that one there, and that I'm going to hook up to a dynamic trigger so that when the player gets close to the fortress, we'll kick off the enemy wave generator. So let me come back over here and find the dynamic trigger. And we'll put that down right here. So first up, let's hook up the enemy wave generator. So we'll connect this to each of the locators that we put down. And I think this would be really nice. We have Chernabog, but since he's not an actual enemy and doesn't really put up any kind of fight, it'd be nice if we had some actual enemies to fight. And every big bad guy has to have his minions, right? So this way, we have some actual enemies to fight, and they'll make sense being here. And that'll make this mission a little bit more exciting. And one more to go. There we are. So back to the logic menu for the enemy wave generator. We'll go ahead and configure the wave. And for the enemies, we're going to use something different than the brooms. Be nice to have a little variety. And I'm thinking Maleficent's goons would be a good choice. So I'm going to set this up with 2 of these guys and 2 of these guys. And for the properties, I'm not going to put them in a random locator, which means they'll show up 1 at each of the locators that I've connected. No generation delay. Hide the generation effects. So that one's ready to go. For the dynamic trigger, we're going to connect that to the locator that I put earlier in the middle of the tower. That's kind of centralized here. And under the properties, the target isn't this toy, but it's the connected locator. And for the trigger distance, I'm going to set this to about 50. And we'll do a new logic connection when entered by player, any. Come over here and generate the wave. And I'm going to leave this always turned on so that anytime you come to the fortress and wander up this way, you'll have some enemies to battle. So that's it for the enemies, and now we'll hook up the radar markers. And so this will be the first one. So I'm going to connect this to the locator up here on top of the trigger. And under the properties, whoa, that was weird. For the beacon type, we're going to set this to be a blue arrow. And the beacon location will be the connected locator. And it'll be off by default. And I want that radar marker to come on when we start the mission. So we'll come back over here to our mission giver, and on the text displayer, new logic connection. When the text proposal is accepted, we'll come over here and turn on that first radar marker. This is the first place the player needs to go, because they can't get to that scroll until they deal with those sparks, and they can't do that until they deal with Chernabog. And you can't get to Chernabog until you cast the light spell. So that's hooked up now. And so when they step on the trigger to cast the light spell, that comes through this logic gate. So on a new logic connection on output, we'll come over here and deactivate that radar marker. And on output from the gate, we'll activate the one we're going to hook up for Chernabog. That'll be next. And for that, the new actor connection connects to this friend generator, which placed Chernabog up there. And for the properties on that, again, the beacon type will be a blue arrow. Beacon location is the connected actor. And this will be off by default and won't turn on until this broadcasts the output signal, which we just hooked up. And then for our third radar marker, that's going to be over here. So we'll connect that to the locator that we dropped down underneath the well. And on the properties for this, beacon type, once again, the blue arrow. And the beacon location will be the locator. And now there's a couple of things I could do. I could hook up a dynamic trigger to this locator up here where Chernabog is, or to the friend generator. And then once the player gets close enough to them, I can turn off this radar marker and turn on the other one. But actually what I think I will do is have Chernabog's radar marker and the well's radar marker turned on at the same time. So on output from the trigger up there, coming through that logic gate, we'll come over and activate this radar marker. So once we cast that light spell, after we've stepped on that trigger, the radar marker for the well and the radar marker for Chernabog will both be on at the same time. And that way, if the player goes to Chernabog first and picks him up, the radar marker is still on over Chernabog, which tells us he's still a person of interest. And this radar marker being on tells us that's where we need to bring him. And if we come over here first, we find the radar marker over the well, and we know then what we got to do with Chernabog. So either way, I think that works out pretty well. And so once Chernabog is tossed into the well, on the Sidekick door here on the normal response returned, we'll turn off that radar marker. And we'll also turn off the radar marker for Chernabog, since he'll be gone anyway. And there we are. I think that's everything. And I think we're ready to test out that mission. So we'll come over here to our reset button. And pressing that, we'll turn off all of the effects over there and remove Chernabog, as if we haven't started that quest yet. And it also reinitialized our mission giver up there. So let's play through this quest and see how it goes. So when we enter the castle, I've already entered this before, and if we had entered this for the first time, we'd have some brooms running around in here to deal with. And once we did that, we can come up here and hop up on this little wall. And climb this ladder to get up here to the mission giver. And when we get here, there he is. We approach him and he says, "This mission is critical. We have a serious problem." We say, "Okay, we'll help you out." And now, whoa, there's something happening over there. That's not good. So we need to get over there quick. So let's get up here and go grab our horse. And now, as soon as we've hopped on him, we've got some new brooms in here that have shown up that we got to deal with. Should be, yep, one more. There we go. Okay, can't afford any delays. We got to get going. So we'll head over here to the path that leads up into the mountains. Make our way over there as quick as we can. Not that there's any time limit on there, but feels like we got an urgent mission here. As we get closer, we see that lightning and whoa, this cannot be good. Oh yeah, we got some enemies over here to deal with. Hey, level up! Woohoo! Okay, first thing we'll do is head up here and deal with the protective spell that's around Chernabog. So there's our radar marker. And as we get up here, there goes the light spell up there. And now that should be done. Whoops, sorry, horsey. I want to make sure I get my sparks. Well, that took care of him in just one blast. Cool. Now we'll come up here and face Chernabog. Mono Amauso. And now the protective barrier is gone because we cast that light spell and we pick him up. And there's the well down there with the radar marker on it. So we can hop over here. I don't want to lose my sparks. There we go. Okay, the enemies have been dealt with. Chernabog's been tossed in the well. And now we can come get our scroll. And if we wanted to, we could have hooked up another radar marker on top of that. There we go. We've recovered the scroll. So that's it for this side quest. We're finally finished with it, and it's pretty fun to play. Next time, we'll start working on a new quest for Mickey. In the meantime, I hope this series has been helpful to you so far, and that you're learning how to use some of the different features of the toy box. I know many of you are eager for me to get to some of the more advanced toys, and we'll get there eventually, but there's still a lot of other toys I want to cover first. Until next time, don't forget to sign up on my blog or subscribe to my channel if you haven't already done that, so you don't miss the next episode in this series. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.